Good morning and welcome to Climate Matters, your monthly sustainability radio show brought to you by the City of Santa Fe. I'm your host, Neal Denton, and we are on air every fourth Wednesday, 8:30 to 9, talking about climate issues in and around Santa Fe. For this month's show, we're going to be talking with Jason Zimbler of Calstart about the Charge at Work pledge. The City of Santa Fe has recently taken this pledge to increase electric vehicle charging, and Calstart is looking for organizations, businesses, cities, counties across the nation to take the pledge and see their benefits. Jason Zimbler is the director and principal investigator for Calstart. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Neal. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Calstart and the work that you do there?
Yeah, absolutely. Calstart is a clean transportation nonprofit, and it's been around 30 years. Its organization is based in Pasadena, but since COVID, a lot of the workforce is now remote and scattered all over the country and the world. The Calstart's history is very well established in advancing medium and heavy duty electrification and low carbon, zero emission vehicles. And now we've, in the last few years, started to expand more aggressively into light duty electrification. And I've joined the organization to help with those efforts. I'm the head of the light duty program here at Calstart. I'm based in New York City. And so one of the signature programs within the light duty initiative is this Charge at Work project and program. It's a DOE funded, U.S. Department of Energy funded workplace charging campaign effort. And our mission is to broadly disseminate the benefits and an education and technical assistance to audiences all over the country to help them understand why, to make the movement towards workplace charging and installing plugs and doing other workplace charging activities at their place of business, and also to provide them with actual technical assistance, not just education, but support in getting a project from inception all the way through to execution and implementation. So we have a big mission ahead of us. We're trying to connect with 1,000 employers over the course of this program, trying to catalyze 100,000 ports, level 2 ports at workplaces. There's a big number.
Yes, it is.
And also connect with public officials, elected officials, public officials, 200 of those over the course of the program. And the theory of change is that the more education, the more visibility to this work that we can bring to the market, the more likely we are to see plugs and infrastructure go in the ground. And that should be the gateway and a path to reducing charging anxiety and letting people make the transition to buying an EV.
Well, as the sustainability officer here, I was really happy to hear from your program manager and organizations like your own that are funded by the federal government and can help us make this happen. That technical assistance you mentioned, I know as an organization that took the pledge, we're going to be able to get some free site assessments from electricians that can help us figure out the logistics of installing charging stations our employees can use. And I was really interested in how you can connect us with federal and other incentive programs to help us make it all work, because it can be a little complicated. We've installed a number of electric vehicle charging stations here, and just figuring out the logistics in terms of the electrical panel, which parking space it's going to be, ADA requirements, if it's public serving, ADA space, and things like that can make it a little complicated if you don't have someone with the know-how helping you out. So I heard from your program manager a couple months ago, 2 or 3 months ago. We met with him and our metropolitan planning organization, and I immediately reached out to our mayor, Alan Weber, and asked him if he was interested in taking the pledge to install more workplace EV chargers, providing educational materials, developing an electrification plan. And he said, yeah. Then when we signed the pledge and I reached out to your program manager, Joe, he told us that Mayor Weber was the first to sign up. The first city to sign up, that is.
First city, yeah.
Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised to hear that we're one of the cities leading the charge here. So,
that's fantastic.
And I saw on your website some other cities have signed up since then. Do you want to talk about who you've had sign up so far?
Yeah, we've we've been making some excellent progress, and that's has no sign of abating. We've got a mission ahead, as I said, to sign up lots of people and bring this broadly disseminate this education. We've had some big employers sign up. We've had some counties, some MPOs. We've had City of Redmond, Washington, Half Moon Bay, California, Hoboken, New Jersey, Alexandria, Virginia, and we've had some big employers like Ohio State University and Siemens and IKEA that have raised their hand and said we're ready to sign the pledge. We're advocates. We want to be evangelists for this work. We are going to, install chargers. We're going to develop plans to help our employees make the transition to EVs, and it's more than just putting a plug in the ground. There's ways that you can be supportive of this. It could be surveying. If you're an employer and you're interested in gauging interest or doing a needs assessment, you could survey your employees, and we have some tools to help you do that, to understand how many people do own an EV, and or you may know that already because they're showing up in the parking lot or on the cusp of buying an EV, and that represents the demand that's soon to come. You can, if an employer's really keen, they could establish a small credit for the purchase of EV, like $500 for an employee who wants to buy an EV. The employer would help that offset that somewhat. So there's lots of activities and support that we think is coincides and goes along with just putting that infrastructure in place. The pledge itself is a non-binding instrument. It sort of just makes you into a champions, shows that you're supportive of the effort, signals that you have an intent to, in the future, undertake workplace charging activities, whether that's, as I said, installing infrastructure or doing some of these other advocacy efforts. And so we think that these pledges are going to be something that people are going to want to trumpet once they've done it. They might do a photo op. They're happy to do a press release. They'll tell other members of their community, and then there should be a nice peer effect from that.
Right. So so if someone's listening to this, they work in a grocery store, or maybe there's a restaurant manager listening, should they sign up and take the pledge?
So employees aren't the ones we are targeting. Employers are, but we think that there's a really great conversation to be had. So if somebody is an EV owner and not a business owner, and they're excited about the opportunity and maybe have a plug at their office, they can, if there's start a dialogue and express to their employer that this program exists. It's all free. All the technical assistance, the site assessments, everything involved is free to the employer to help them help educate them. So if anybody is interested in trying to nudge their employer in that direction, I think that we are a great intermediary and a great way to help, be brand neutral, agnostic to various technologies or vendors. We're purely a kind of unbiased education resource. And so that's the link that I would encourage employees to make, is tell their employers about Charge at Work.
But you're looking for all business owners, whether it's a hardware store or a restaurant or a gym, to take the pledge.
Yeah, the pledge is for anybody who's, I'd say it's probably the criteria or the population is business owners who have employees coming to a place of business. If you're working a purely remote operation, this may not be for you. But if you have a printing shop or a retail store or a mall, anything where employers coming to work and their car is going to dwell for the workday, which is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, that's a tremendous opportunity to charge at a level 1 or a level 2 speed. And so those business owners can come to our website, chargeatwork.org, sign our pledge. It's a link right in the front, right on the top, and there's a call to action that says sign our pledge. and answer a few questions about what that workplace is like, how many parking spaces you have, what your plans are. Sign the pledge, again, non-binding, but signals your interest, and then we'll start a conversation, and we'll help you out with any resources or assistance that you need.
Yeah, it was really easy for us to go to your website, chargeatwork.org.
Chargeatwork.org.
And fill out that form there. Appreciate how easy that was. We didn't have to, sign any ink on letters and mail them in or anything like that. So, yeah, if you're listening, check out chargeatwork.org. Whether you're going to sign the pledge or not, there are some good resources there. We've been throwing around some terms: level 1, level 2 charging. But what does that mean? What's a level 2 charger versus a level 1 charger?
Well, I'll start with level 1 because that's easiest to understand. That's your standard wall outlet. That's most buildings have the capability of 2 voltage levels, or I'd say homes or lower, businesses that don't have higher power needs. And so depending on your panel, and of course there's a conversation to have with an electrician, your building can usually support either 110 volts or 220 volts. Your standard wall outlets are 110 volts, and you can plug a car into that outlet, and that's called level 1 charging. And it is a consistent but very low, consistent, steady amount of electricity, but at a very low quantity of electricity. It's only 1 kilowatt, and most EV batteries are 60 kilowatts and up. So if your battery was zero, it would take you 60 hours, more than a day, to charge a car on level 1. It gives you about 5 miles of range per hour. If you're at your workplace and your car is idle for 8 hours, 8 times 5 is 40. So 30 to 40 miles of range added back at level 1. That's a day's commute. That's pretty good. Level 1 is very cost effective. Many people have outlets on the sides of buildings. You could run a trench to a parking space and put a simple, level 110 outlet there for low cost. We think that that's a viable solution. However, level 2 is more common, and that usually can be supported by a building and its electrical infrastructure without much upgrade. Level 2 is about 6 or 7 or even more times faster than level 1. So you're going to get a charge not in days, but 4, 5, 6 hours to fill a battery. And if your car is idle for the time you're at work, you're going to have 150, 200 miles of range, 100 to 200 miles of range added back into your car in that time. So level 2 is a little more expensive. It usually takes the form of a charging station with a dispenser with a nozzle that goes into the car. That's like a physical infrastructure that would sit beside a parking space. However, automakers are usually including mobile charging cords when you buy an EV. So if there were just a 220 outlet next to a parking space, it's likely that you have a cord if you're an EV owner, and you could just plug into the outlet. So at level 2 is either an outlet or a charging station. It's a much faster charge. It's perfect for the amount of hours that an employee is parked at work.
Yeah, and here in our office, we're in the city office off of Siler, and we use both. Actually, we have a couple of Nissan Leafs, and in the secure lot, we're just plugging it into outdoor outlets for most of our uses. These cars are used to drive across town to a meeting, go to a mail run. We're not driving around town doing building inspections or senior meal deliveries or parking enforcement like some of our city vehicle uses where they are driving a lot. So for just administrative uses, we're able to meet most of our needs with just that level 1 charging. But we have multiple level 2 chargers here that are on the employee parking side of things, where if we ever need a quicker charge, we go to get the car. We have a couple of Chevrolet Bolts in the fleet too that we use to go to Albuquerque, and we need to make sure those are at 100% charge before we go down, drive an hour down the interstate. So we'll use those level 2 chargers to make sure they're full. And so you get, generally it's going to vary by car and exactly what the level 2 charging station, but generally 30 miles of range per hour of charging in these charging stations we've installed. And just so everyone knows, the listeners, we have charging stations at our rail yard garage that are open to the public. There are 5 dual port chargers there. When I say dual ports, there are 2 parking spaces. 10 parking spaces are served with electric vehicle charging stations at that garage. We've got one at the Southside Library, one at the Sandoval Garage, and one at the Convention Center Garage. And that one at the Convention Center Garage is where our city hall is too. So that's one of our city employee charging stations. And part of this pledge is we're looking to install more. We're submitting a request to the state legislature asking for funding to install more. We're able to use some of that funding to deploy what we've gotten out there so far. And we want others to join us. We're one of the biggest employers here in town. The other biggest employers are the school district, the state, the county, the national labs. If anyone in those organizations are listening, join us and help deploy electric vehicle charging stations across town, because the workplace is really where they should be. People are charging at home and at work for the most part. You don't have to go to a gas station like we used to for a quick charge. And that's great for when you're traveling across the country, that you can go some places and get a really quick charge in what we call DC fast chargers. But if we have these chargers at workplaces and at residences, people are going to be able to charge their vehicles overnight and while they're at work and never really have to go and get that quick charge.
95% of a car's life, it's idle. And most of those hours are either at home or at work. And there's electricity in both of those places. So you can take advantage of regularly topping up and avoiding that charging range anxiety. And then there's an important pillar of the infrastructure fabric, or important work to be done to make sure there's fast charging to enable road trips. But the vast majority of people's trips are 40 miles or less, and that can be very well served by having access to a charger at home, having access to a charger at work. The program, you mentioned petitioning the legislature for additional funding. For employers, and in some cases for municipalities, there's access to incentives, and that's one thing that this program is trying to make super clear and transparent. There's incentives at the utility level, at the state level, sometimes at the city level, at the federal level. And so our program will give you a database and plug in a zip code where the site will be or where the organization is headquartered, and we can present some results for you for what incentives you may be eligible for. We can't do a full thorough assessment to know exactly whether you're eligible, but we can give you a kind of guidance to learn more about incentives that you may be eligible for.
That's great, and I'm glad you're helping people figure that out. Our electric utility here, PNM, does have incentives that are available for installing charging stations. They vary a little bit depending on what type of site it is. So that'll be helpful to help people figure that out. And of course, PNM has their own resources you can take a look at. And just so everyone knows, you're tuning in right now to Climate Matters, City of Santa Fe Sustainability Radio Show. We're talking about electric vehicle charging stations with Jason Zimbler of Calstart. Calstart is helping us with our Charge at Work pledge. We've pledged to increase workplace electric vehicle charging. They're looking for more businesses, more public agencies to take the pledge. So, Jason, what are some competitive benefits for businesses or public, any employers to deploy EV charging?
Yeah, this is a really critical part of understanding why to do a project. Is there may be a forcing function. Maybe there's a building code regulation or a state that is mandating the increase of charging stations in parking lots, but that's less the case. More the case that an employer is considering doing this because it's an important amenity, or because they themselves are an EV owner, or they see this as an important trend. But we want to help understand that justification and make that justification stronger and more understandable to employers. For one, they're going to, if they put a charger in the ground, that's going to be a very positive signal to employers that they're willing to support them, and that's a critical amenity that employers employees will care about. That helps with retention, that helps with employee acquisition. That's something they can talk about when they're recruiting for new employees. It's a community leadership play. It shows that they're helping to improve air quality in their community, helping to lead on the EV transition. Employees who care about environmental sustainability and sustainability in general are going to be very attracted to employers who are moving in this direction. There may also be for an employer an opportunity to make a small amount of money or to recover some of the cost. And we educate on this in our program. You could provide the charging and the kilowatt hours that come out of the charging station for free. You could ask your employees to pay the market value of that electricity, or they could even be asked to pay a small premium to recover the cost. And so there could be a small revenue potential, and it is providing an opportunity for equity. So it's giving a charging opportunity to any and all employees, and that allows for people in, I think this last one is really critical. Disadvantaged communities or low and moderate income communities may not have charging at home. They may be in an apartment, or they may be renters, and having a charging station work gives them a certain opportunity to have a charging location. And that may be the difference maker for somebody who's considering buying an EV or a used EV.
And here at the City of Santa Fe, we're able to offer, benefits through human resources to encourage people to work here and stay here. Some of those include like a gym membership at the Genoveva Chavez Community Center. And part of our pledge to increase workplace charging, I'm planning on talking to human resources to see if we can offer that free electric vehicle charging to people as an incentive to work here. Or as an incentive to stay here, and very importantly, as an incentive to switch to an electric vehicle. I mentioned we're one of the biggest employers here, and so if we can help our employees switch to an electric vehicle with essentially free fuel, that's going to have a big impact. And it's not the same as paying for gasoline. Again, this number varies a lot depending on the details, but generally it's about $5 if you're paying for those kilowatt hours to fill up your vehicle. So it's not going to have a big impact on the city budget, offering that to city employees. I'm hoping we can be able to make that work. It's not quite in place yet. So if any city employees are listening, stay tuned for that. Feel free to reach out to me for details. But as we're approaching the end of our show, Jason, I just wanted to make sure we talked on the benefits of electric vehicles. Here in Santa Fe, transportation is the biggest contributor to gas emissions. We did an inventory of emissions in 2021, and transportation was 35% of our footprint. And some people are concerned that the source of that power is dirty and probably making a difference. Is that the case?
The electricity, the carbon content of the electricity
Yes.
that goes into the EVs. It depends grid to grid, and so there's some great research that came out of the Union of Concerned Scientists that shows the map, and it shows in each utility territory, or each what do I want to say, the master grid operators, what the equivalent amount of miles per gallon is in each part of the country, because the grids are sourced by either greater or less carbon fuel. I'm making this more challenging than it needs to be. In grids that are cleaner because there's more hydro or more solar and wind, the electricity that's going into the vehicle is near zero emission. In grids that are still transitioning from that are still have some coal or some natural gas, that is a less green electricity. But importantly, even in the dirtiest grid in the country, an EV, it produces less emissions when you factor in that electricity production than the most efficient gasoline vehicle. So in the cleanest grids, you're 3, 4, 5 times more climate friendly, and in the dirtiest grids, you're still marginally more clean than a gasoline vehicle. So it's and the grids in the country are slowly greening. There's more renewables coming online. There's more shift from coal to natural gas. So I think we're expect to see EVs getting cleaner as they drive more miles.
Right.
All of that energy is produced domestically.
Right. Yeah. We don't have to depend on foreign sources of fuel to produce that electricity. And here, where we're on PNM's electric grid, since they turned off their coal power plant about a year ago, 53% of the electric grid is carbon free.
That's great.
From solar, wind, geothermal, and nuclear. And they are transitioning to be 100% carbon free. So if you purchase an electric vehicle now, let's say you're driving it for 15 years, it's just going to get cleaner and cleaner as that electricity gets cleaner.
That's right. And it's not just the carbon content, right? It's the air quality improvements that come from switching from combustion to electric vehicles.
That's right. And of course, none of those emissions are coming out of the tailpipe. So you have that, improved public health locally.
That's right.
So thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you.
That concludes Climate Matters. We're on the air every fourth Wednesday, 8:30 to 9, talking about climate issues in and around Santa Fe. Jason, I hope you have a great day.
Thanks so much, Neal. We'll talk again soon. You have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.